After about as disastrous of a start to the season as the Sixers could possibly imagine, it may finally look like they are back on track. Not only have they won 4 of the last 5, but Joel Embiid stepped back on the floor and looked like the best version of himself that we have seen in a long time. I would argue since before the knee surgery last year, since before that fateful Warriors game in which his knee was falling on, and obviously he was dealing with issues before that. But to me, the mobility was back. He looks notably skinnier, and everything makes more sense when your superstars on the floor. So Ryan, my first question to you right off the bat here. Are we back?
I'm not ready to say back yet.
Okay.
As sitting here at 7-15, you still got a little bit of a hole to dig yourself out of. But having won 4 of 5, you're certainly on that right track. And as we've talked about numerous times on the show this year, it's hard to win games and go out there and compete and look like a competent team when your money is invested heavily in these three guys and they haven't played together. And now we're starting to see them play together. The last game being on Sunday against the Bulls, we talked about it that they're not playing again until Friday. So fingers crossed, no practice injuries or anything between now and then. But we should see the whole cast of characters back out there for Friday night's game as well. And it's just one game at a time now. You got to hope that we can continue to string these games together. But 4 out of 5 is certainly a good start.
Yeah, absolutely there. And I want to start off by talking a little bit about Joel Embiid here. And first, I want to pull up this highlight specifically. These were the most encouraging highlights to me. And yes, he finished with 31 points, 12 rebounds, had 4 assists. The stats speak for themselves, as you expect, with a player who has won MVP and is Joel Embiid. We know who he is at this point. But what I was really, my eyes were keen on is how is he moving out there? What does this look like laterally? And there's 2 plays that I want to highlight here. Look at him guarding in space, gets turned around with Zach LaVine, and still forces a really tough contest. And this, he is isolated with Kobe White here. Kobe White gets a step on him, and look at that recovery block from Joel Embiid. That is thrilling to me to see that that is still possible for Joel Embiid. That was my biggest takeaway from yesterday is I truly believe that was better movement than we've seen by him, certainly in that entire Knicks series, really since he came back from the knee issue last year. This felt like the pre-meniscus tear last season version of Joel Embiid, and I was a little skeptical that that guy was still in there.
Yeah, the main thing I think with the Nias too is, and I think Joel went on to kind of say it, it wasn't a new injury, it's just the swelling around it.
Yeah,
Like, how did it respond today? Like, because the what we've talked about, and I know what you've said, the goal is just one healthy playoff run.
right.
In a playoff run, you're going to need to be playing every other night pretty much. And for Embiid's need to the swelling to be the main cause for concern, I think that's still a red flag because how does it respond if you got to play Monday night and then you got to go play another war against the Knicks on a Wednesday night? That's the biggest thing. But with his extended break, I mean, we didn't see him for what, 2 to 3 weeks since that Grizzlies game. He had an extended break and now he's out there and he's looking good. Now we don't see him again until Friday. I'm going to be more curious once they play Friday and then they got to play a Sunday, something like that, and see how that returns. But certainly, it's a green flag that he's looking like that. But also, it's still in the back of my mind. You got to think: is he able to play a back to back? Is he able to play every other day? That's going to be the main cause for concern and something that we still haven't seen yet.
Yeah, totally fair there, and we will obviously see how that plays out. I cannot wait to see the injury report ahead of Friday's game, and that to me is going to be more telling than anything. With this gap of time, them being off from Sunday to Friday, Joel Embiid should 1,000% be out there again, and that is the expectation that it should be the case. We have nothing to believe that it isn't at this point. I've seen zero updates whatsoever, and the Sixers were off from practice. We're recording this Monday night, so no practice that was taken today, so no updates that we've heard from the team. But that will kind of be the telling story to me. That I would argue today is probably even more important than yesterday as far as getting a read on what that need truly is. But a couple other points that I did want to hit on. Number one, just seeing how much more sense everything fits in with Joel Embiid on the floor here. Let's start with Tyrese Maxey right at the top here. The first career triple-double that he has ever logged, a career-high 14 assists there, with 10 of those assists going directly to Joel Embiid there. We saw the chemistry in the two-man game again. We saw him playing with some confidence, the shot looking a little bit better. Still just 3 of 12 from 3, has a ways to go, but I was really encouraged by that. We saw Paul George fitting in, and then Jared McCain sharing the floor with them. And to spit this stat at you, Ryan, that when the 4 of those were on the floor, which was only a 36 possession sample size, so not a ton to go off, but a plus 38 net rating, which is the 100th percentile there. That's being with McCain, Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid. Obviously, way too small of a chance to read into that too heavily, but I mean, the results speak for themselves, and I do think that this is the direction you continue to lean on moving forward. So what's kind of your takeaway for the way this is fitting together and your thoughts on that, Ryan?
Yeah, not a bad little stat there from you, and like you said, a small sample size, and probably something that isn't completely sustainable
Maybe
in the
not
100th
100th
percentile.
percentile, yeah, but
Yeah, but certainly the the surprise of the season still has been Jared McCain
Yeah.
and what he's been able to do and fit in at this point. Basically, if you're getting George Embiid and Maxey and they're just able to go out there and play pretty much, whatever you get from Jared McCain is a plus, but you're going to need that plus as well. You're going to need that extra guy to be able to step up at times. And I do think, because we talked about it last week, how it was I said coaching malpractice that Nick Nurse wasn't starting McCain, and he doesn't start yesterday, but he still plays 28 minutes. He plays the most minutes out of anyone off the bench. He's a plus 17, so he's not just doing well on the offensive end, but he's playing good enough on the defensive end as well to hold his own.
Yeah.
And then you look at Tyrese Maxey as well, a plus 21 yesterday. You can argue his best game of the season,
Yeah.
probably. Still, as you said, struggling with the shooting a little bit, only going 3 of 12, but having a triple double yesterday. And you talked about it last week, just the situation of how much better he usually plays when he has Embiid in there and the focus isn't solely on him. So certainly a good sign of progress and progression. I really liked kind of looking at the box score in the minutes. You look at Paul George 35, Embiid 33, Maxey 42, Oubre 38, and then McCain 28. Everyone else kind of in the teens, under Drummond below 10 minutes. But that's kind of the distribution and the breakdown, I think, of the players and the type of minutes that they need to be getting every night going forward.
Yeah, and quick shout out to Kelly Oubre, who was excellent yesterday. I give him a ton of credit for reinventing himself the way that he is. That he is not just this guy that wants to dance with the ball in his hands and jack 3-pointers. He does the gritty work, man. He was crashing the offensive glass like crazy yesterday. He had 10 rebounds yesterday, which is awesome stuff to see from his backdoor cuts off the charts there. And we're starting to see a little bit more chemistry from each of these guys on finding Kelly on those type of opportunities. Tyrese had a lob to him yesterday that he really had to crank back and get it, but I love to see that that's starting to get added to sort of the playbook here. Now, when looking ahead and kind of looking at the Sixers team, taking a look at the standings, as we're already seeing a little bit of climbing from this team. No longer sitting in 14th place, that we're now up to the fourth worst spot in the conference. But when looking at these standings as a whole here, the Sixers 12 and a half games out there, just 1.5 games back of that play-in tournament now, and still in the possibility of climbing all the way to a real deal playoff seed here. Now, when specifically looking ahead at this next slate of games, they play the Indiana Pacers and they play back-to-backs against the Charlotte Hornets, which are obviously two teams in this mix and three very winnable games when speaking about this. So the job is not finished by any means, but has your level of optimism increased as far as them climbing the standings, Ryan?
Yeah, I think so for sure. And I think an expression that kind of gets thrown around, and it's mainly because of like football season and football season winding down. But everyone says the NBA season doesn't really start until Christmas.
Yeah.
And if we still have the Pacers game, as you said, the two Charlotte games, Cleveland, San Antonio, and then you have the Celtics on Christmas. You have a good chance, I think, and the goal, I think now over this kind of span with Indiana, two against Charlotte, Cleveland, and San Antonio, you go 4 out of 5 in those games heading into the Boston game. You're sitting at, what would that be, 9-16
Yep.
or two, yeah, 9-16. You're climbing, and that's what you got to do. You got to win these games that you're supposed to win. That is the key in this stretch. And then you're gonna have to steal a couple as well. But there's no reason that you can't go 5-0 in that span. There's no reason you don't have to go to Cleveland and lose that game. You can go and win that game for sure. And when you look at the schedule coming up, you have Friday. So as we said, Embiid should play in that one. Next one not till Monday at Charlotte. Then the next one not till Friday again. So good breaks there. And then Saturday, you have a back-to-back against Charlotte and Cleveland. You kind of
Tough.
got to decide, do we want to probably guarantee a win against the Hornets in that one or risk it and have them go play at Cleveland? That's going to be a discussion. And then San Antonio as well before Boston. So you have another good 5-game stretch, and the schedule, I think, lines up well that you should at least 4 out of those 5 games have your entire cast of characters out there together.
Yeah, and after fact checking myself a little bit, it'd be 11-16 there, which is even better.
11,
So I think
yeah,
that kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
puts you right in that playing mix there, which that's all you can ask for at this stage. There's still 60 games left to be played, man. There's a lot of NBA season left. So it's nice to see these signs of progress. It was awesome to see this version of Joel Embiid moving in space, defending the way that we would hope. And I will say, like, what particularly jumped out to me, what I was like enthused by, is he did not look like himself in the first quarter. Shot 0 of 6 from the field. I was starting to get nervous, and then it was clear that in that second quarter, he came out with a different energy and absolutely turned this game on its head here. So that is the caliber of player that Joel Embiid is. Once again, we do know that to be determined on the knee. He spoke plenty about it being depressed and how there's not another injury. I do still feel bad from him on a human being level, and I think it's really tough to deal with that. But what the next stages of the injury report are going to be really telling from here. So for the time being, we'll continue operating with a positive view from here. We have nothing to indicate that we shouldn't be. finally we're starting to see some signs of progress for the Sixers team. Any final thoughts before we wrap up for this one, Ryan?
It's one at a time.
Yep.
We got 4 out of the last 5. You just got to continue to win these games, and I think especially win these games that you should. You can't afford any slip ups, and you're just gonna have to continue to climb yourself out. And they're starting to do that. So things are starting to round into form. Fingers crossed, nothing crazy happens, but you never know with the Sixers.
Yep, absolutely there. So appreciate each and one of you guys tuning in this video. As always, make sure you're smashing that subscribe button and dropping a like if you have not already. Let us know your thoughts below. What is your level of optimism? And me and Ryan will be back talking with you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.